Hello, hello. Welcome to this video where I'm going to be showing you how to use Procreate. We're going to be focusing on navigation, brushes, and I'm going to give you a little activity at the end and we'll go over that activity. So super excited to be here today. If you are tuning in live, please drop a comment. Let me know where you are tuning in from. I can share the comments live, so have a conversation with me. I will be checking the comments so I can answer any questions that you have. If there's something specific that you want me to show you, then just type that into the comments and I'll do my best to share it. And then if you are watching the replay, then obviously I won't be able to answer your questions live, but if you ask any questions that you have, it can really help me create more content that is valuable to the viewers and something that is, helpful for them. So ask your questions and I will definitely take those into consideration for future videos. And then if I can, I'll just come back and answer what I can. So we've got Janet Casper tuning in, my mother-in-law. Love you, Janet. Watching from Winterville. Thank you so much for tuning in. So I'm going to be sharing now. I am working on my iPad. You can use iPad and iPhone, but I highly recommend iPad for this reason, or for the main reason of accuracy. I have tried using the app on my phone and it's fun to play with. If you're just looking to kind of play and doodle, try it on your phone. You'll understand what the app is. And, maybe if you want to use an iPad in the future, then you can learn to navigate it and stuff in your phone. It works kind of similarly. But this is just a page that I put together, but I don't know, actually. Yeah. Okay. So we've got kind of a screen and a screen here. And I know that may be a little confusing, but I did it because you don't have a cursor on the iPad. So I wanted to be able to indicate what I was looking at by little marks on the screen. So really quick, before we go there, this is what the app looks like when you go into it. Obviously, yours may look a little different. These are all the creations that I have done. So this is kind of like my file folder for all of my creations. And so you'll just either choose a document or there's the plus sign up in the top right-hand corner. If you wanted, you can choose whichever size canvas that you want to work with. But mainly we're going to be focusing on the navigation within this area here. So obviously the gallery is just going to take you back to that screen that we were just in. And then you have the wrench, which is settings for if you want to insert a photo, insert a file, add text, cut, copy, paste the canvas. I don't tend to use the cut and copy from this area very often. What I do use is the canvas area. You can add drawing guides. So if you're trying to make straight lines, then you can add that. I love the drawing lines for the symmetry as well. If you like making mandalas, and I'm going to slow down there for a second. So what I did was I went to the wrench and then the drawing guide, edit drawing guide. Then I click on symmetry and options, radial. And I'm only saying this one, I'm emphasizing this one because this one really built up my confidence with working in the program. I was able to create some really fun art just by playing. So I wanted to show you this because I think it's important for us to build up our confidence in the different things that we want to try. And actually, I already kind of messed up. I'm going to do this one more time because it depends on which layer you are on. So let me do this. Ignore what I'm doing right now. This is just for okay, here we go. Just because I threw it off. We will go through what I just went through later. I really wanted to keep this as less complicated as possible. But this is what I love about this is you draw in one section and it duplicates it in all the other sections. So this is a really fun way, like I said, to make art that is going to build up your confidence, that you love, that you had some fun making. And that's really important to me, at least whenever you're working and making art. So I'm going to turn that off now. There we go. Drawing assist. Okay. Some of this stuff I'm still learning. All right. So, oops. I've already messed up. It'll be all right. We're going to use a different color moving forward. All right. So the next thing, wait, there's more in here. So also in the wrench is where you will share. So once you complete whatever the project is that you want to complete, you would do share, and you can export the file into a Procreate file, a PSD, PDF, JPEG, PNG, and TIF, along with some animations. We'll save that for a whole other video. The video feature, which is a lot of fun too, it kind of creates a time lapse of whatever it is that you have created. And so you can export that into a video to where you can watch like start to finish. If you guys have ever seen my creations in the process, that's one of the tools I use. I also use my screen recorder, but the video replay is pretty cool too. And I don't tend to use the preferences very often. I don't know much about that, so I won't go over that. And then the help. The next one we will go over is what I call the wand. And the wand has a lot of fun not settings, but what would you call it? Features that you can use on your piece of art. This I don't tend to use whenever I'm making line art, so I'm not going to go into detail of it since we're mainly focusing on creating coloring pages or hand lettering. This one here, I like to call the scissors. I don't know what the little emblem is actually called. And the reason I call it that is because once I do that, then let's say I wanted to move this October 20 around, then I can circle it with what I call my scissors. So it's like I'm cutting it out. And then I click on the arrow, and the arrow is kind of like the pointer. So it's moving things. So now I can just touch the screen and move that October 20th wherever I want to move it to. Now, obviously you can see this was on a solid background. So you can kind of see there's white there, but had this text been on a transparent background, then it would have just cut the actual font and not anything from the background. But it's all on one layer for this one because it is an image. All right. Hopefully I'm not confusing you there. I'm going to undo there. All right. Then we have, like I said, the mover. I call that the mover tool, the pointer, the mover tool. That's what I use it for, is when I want to move things. So that's what the arrow is for. Then we have our brushes. The brushes tend to overwhelm some people. I actually spoke with someone recently that has been wanting to learn Procreate, and she talked about how watching other Procreate tutorials and things like that, that navigating and figuring out the brushes, that it kind of overwhelmed her and made her feel like, this is just too much. And my goal here with this video is to kind of overcome that. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. There is a lot, because you can do a lot with Procreate. But if you're just wanting to learn it, the brushes that I would say to focus on are going to be the inking brushes, the drawing brushes, or the calligraphy brushes. And I actually have some extra brushes. So yours being, if you have a new Procreate account, your brushes may look a little different. I'm not very organized when it comes to naming mine, but I've been playing around with creating brushes. So ignore the extra brushes that I have that you may not have. But I would just say get in there and select one from each category, and then get used to playing with it. And that way it doesn't, and then, as you get more comfortable with it, you can try out all of the different brushes. So I'm going to choose a calligraphy brush just because I do want to kind of focus on the difference in the pressures of the brushes. So I'll get to that as soon as I get to the navigation. Then you have here the smudging tool. Now the smudging tool is actually something new that I recently learned about. But if you select that smudging tool, you can see it literally just smudges the image of what's there. And I'm going to use my little undo button down here. So down here you have, you have the undo button. Another thing is 2 fingers. 2-finger tap will actually undo everything. So you see it's all undoing. So I'm just double tapping, or not double tapping, tapping the screen once with 2 fingers. And then to redo, which you also have a button down here for that, to redo something, it would just be a 3-finger tap. So, and then you have your eraser tool, which everybody kind of knows what an eraser tool is. What I really like about the eraser tool is you can select the same brush or different brushes that you want for your eraser. So if you want an eraser effect that is like a brush, then you can do that same thing. So you have the same options here for brushes as you, and same thing for the smudge. You can choose what type of brush that you want the smudge to look like. And then here, well, if I can get the right brush, there we go. Here you have the layers. And I mentioned a little bit about the layers earlier, but adding layers just allows you to keep things separate. So I'm going to demonstrate like what I said earlier where I wanted to copy something and it was just the text. So I have that there. I'm going to turn that layer back on. It actually looks like it's on top of it. I'm going to use my cut tool and I'm going to circle that. Now I'm actually on the layer with that written. And now that I move that around, you can see there's no background behind it. If my screen will catch up with me here. There's no background behind it. So that's what I wanted to kind of show you, where depending on where the thing is that you're cutting, the layers will affect that. Hopefully I'm explaining that right. I'm going to go back and check the comments really quick. Oops. So we've got Miss Janine tuning in. Hey, hey, Miss Janine. Jana said, love you too. All right. Sometimes layers get my little brain confused. I can wholeheartedly agree with that. I have experienced the same thing. And one of the things that has helped me with that is naming my layers. And one of the ways that you can do that is by simply, let me pull up so it catches up here. So when you have your layers, I'm going to take that off because it feels like it's distracting. All right. When you have your layers, you can select them and rename. Come on. All right. I'm having some technical difficulties here. Hold on. Okay, it's mirroring, so show me what I want to see. There we go. All right, so you select the layer and you can rename it. So I'm using my actual pen here, but you can type in this as well. So I just scratch it out with my pen and then I write what I want to, I'm going to just do image. And then for this one, it can get really confusing though. You just kind of have to give yourself a little bit of grace and patience. Like that's the biggest thing for me, has been giving myself the patience to double check myself, make sure that I'm on the right layer that I want to work with. All right, so we covered that. We covered the brushes. All right, the one thing that I did want to walk you through was the brush settings. So with my calligraphy brush, you can kind of, if I can get on the right layer and turn it on. So you can notice it gets bigger, it gets skinnier, but I'm stroking it kind of the same. The difference is the pressure. And so every pen, there's all these different settings. If you click on a pen or a brush, I think the system tends to call it brush. So there's all of these different settings. I would not recommend going in and playing with settings of current brushes. If you want to get into learning about how to make brushes and changing the settings and stuff like that, that's a whole other realm that is not me. But the one that I do play around with regularly is the stabilization, because I do use my Procreate app to write as well as draw. When I'm drawing, I tend to like the system, the computer, to help me smooth my lines. And that's where stabilization is going to help me. But when I'm writing, I tend to write kind of fast, and stabilization makes my stuff look really wonky. And I'll demonstrate that for you. So I'm actually going to go to a brush that I prefer using. And I apologize if you hear my dog barking. She can be a little ridiculous, and there's no way to hush her up. So I've learned not to argue with her. All right. So let's say that I wanted to, and I'm actually going to go here for this activity. So I'm going to focus on the writing and the lettering first. This is actually a tool that you can download for free. If you search on, I did this on Pinterest. So I searched on Pinterest, free Procreate lettering templates. And there's quite a few bloggers out there that have shared lots of really awesome resources for getting more familiar with hand lettering and drawing and stuff like that in Procreate. So I highly recommend, for playing purposes and having some fun and, getting some support while you're learning, is definitely do that search on Pinterest and download some different support tools. But so here you can see it's just my pen is not really, it's staying pretty consistent. And I'm just, because you can't tell, I'm pushing down in different areas, but it's all staying consistent. This particular brush is not what you would call a calligraphy brush, but I like using it for writing because I'm not much of a calligraphy writer. So I wanted to give the differences for whatever you're going to be using it. So if you're more like me, you like to write, but you're not all about the different pressures and getting the pressures just right and stuff, then have some fun with the monolines. And this is kind of how I do it. I imitate calligraphy. So I will just go in and draw the thickness that I want it to be. So that's one way of doing hand lettering. And then, but I am, for demonstration purposes, going to show you what it's like with a calligraphy brush. I do, whenever I'm doing this, I do like the script brush. This is one that you should already have pre-programmed into your Procreate. The squishy brush that I was doing before was probably one that you don't have. So I'm going to go up. Whoops, that's really too big. Let's start smaller. So I'm going to go up, and I'm going to add some pressure, and I'm going to go down. So you can see my lines are not very smooth. I'm not a calligraphy person, but I did want to demonstrate because I know that there are some that like to do calligraphy, and I did not want to leave you guys out. I think calligraphy is really cool, but it's just not something I have enough patience for. And so this is another one that's kind of tough for me. So going up thin, pushing down to go thicker. Then up thin and pushing down. And I think these exercise sheets I think that they're very helpful if you want to learn that, because the more you practice with it, the more your hand will get used to the different pressures that you need to add. So the line smoothness that I wanted to show. So I'm doing kind of a quick swirl, and you can see that there, how the line kind of smooths. I'm going to take this stabilization right here. I'm going to take it all the way down. And I'm going to do that same motion. It's not as pretty, I don't think. It's not bad, but I don't think it was quite as pretty. You can also see here, I'm just going up and down really quickly. But if I change that stabilization back up to where it was, and I do that again, you see what I get. It's kind of stabilizing that, where if you go a little slower, actually, let me do, if you go slower, it tends to work with you better. So the stabilization, I feels like it can slow you down in some instances. So hopefully that helps and explains that. I'm going to come back to the comments really quick. And let's see. All right, Janine said, I think the letter pages help a lot. Awesome. I'm really glad to hear that. And you know, drawing, so before I even get into this, I'm going to come in close with you. As I consider myself an artist, I do some tracing. There are many artists out there that would argue that I'm not an artist because I do tracing. I beg to differ. I'm still pretty creative. I add my own flair to different things, but I'm not like a trained artist. So hopefully if you're like me, I'm giving you a little bit of validation to just create and don't let, people hold you back. Now, if you're tracing stuff and you're trying to sell it, that's a whole other story. I'm not telling you to go out there and do that. This is just simply how to build your skills with creating art on a digital format. And the way that I got good at doing art in a traditional format, as well as this, is by tracing and getting familiar with like just the muscle memory of using the pencil and my hand and whatever other medium that I was using. So I wanted to walk you through, because I want to give you an activity of either doing the hand lettering or doing some tracing. And so I wanted to walk you through how you could do that and close out with that activity. And Janine says, yes. Awesome. I'm glad you agree. So to download, I'm going to clear all of this. So let's say that you have a photo that you've already got on your iPad, or if you don't, go download one or send it to it however you want. Find an image that you want to play around with, that you want to trace, that you want to turn into something. And so I actually have a couple already in here. I'm sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing. So I'm going to hit on the wrench and I'm going to do add. And now this is in my photo album. So I'm going to do insert photo. And I have all of these AI generated little kawaii monsters that I thought were really cool and really fun. But so I'm going to just kind of demonstrate with this one. So I added that image into Procreate, but I want to trace it and create a whole new image. Now, would I draw on the same layer? No. If I draw on the same layer, I won't be able to turn off that image to where I can see the new image that I've created. So I'm going to add a new layer, and I just do that by hitting that little plus sign. And then what I want to do, because the dark lines of this image won't allow me to see my new dark lines. So I'm going to hit the little N on layer 2 where the actual image is. And I'm going to lower that, and you'll see the image getting a little more transparent. And you can lower that however much you want to. And then just click off of it. And now we want to stay with the layer 3 selected, because that's the one we want to draw on. And I'm going to go back to my squishy pen. It's my favorite. And you're just going to start tracing. And I wanted to demonstrate too. So I have no stabilization on for this. And you can see my lines are pretty okay. But where I get really sloppy sometimes is my circles. Now, obviously, that's not perfect. There's a couple of things you can do. I have not lifted my pen off of the iPad yet. So the circle is still kind of activated. I'm going to take 2 fingers from my left hand and I'm going to tap the screen and watch what happens. Is it going to show you? Hopefully. Come on, computer. Don't let me down. Oh, it didn't do it. Hold on. There we go. Okay, it just snapped too. So that's what happens. The 2-finger trick, if you're doing circles, will allow you to create the perfect shape. But then you also, I don't know if you can see it still. Come on. Okay. You have this little thing up at the top, as long as you don't click off of it, that you can select circle or ellipse. So you can change it right there. But I also, sometimes I don't even like doing that. I'm one that tends to like what I call rough art, to where it's not always perfect. And so I'm going to just increase my stabilization and I'm going to go a little slower. Actually, that is not working. Why is that not working? Oh, I did the wrong thing. I did pressure instead of stabilization. There we go. I'm going to do max. So you can see no matter what I do that's kind of off, it gets a little closer to perfect. This thing is lagging. So you can see it's not a perfect circle, but I did that intentionally. That wasn't a very good demonstration of me trying to create a perfect circle, but I wanted you to see how the stabilization worked. So I'm going to do it again. And if you keep kind of the same speed, you can get pretty close. So that's not terrible. I do have that little bump right there that I don't like, but anywho. So that is my activity for you. Download an image, trace it on a separate layer, and then all you have to do, so obviously I didn't do this whole thing, but you would just unselect the layer that you no longer want. You have a brand new image that you can now export as your own kind of piece of art. Now, again, I stress, if you're tracing things that, are other people's, don't portray it as your own, but you can see how good your line work is, where you need improvement, stuff like that. So that's just kind of my recommendation for that. And then, as I said, you can download the lettering support templates on Pinterest, Google. I'm sure you can find them on Google. So yeah, and have fun with that. Those activities can really help build your confidence and your skill in creating with Procreate. All right. Awesome. Thanks so much, Janine. I'm glad you enjoyed it. If you guys enjoyed this content and want to learn more about creating coloring pages, or you just want some coloring pages, you can visit my website at ashleyscreativestash.com. I just realized I did not have the title of this video going across the video. But yeah, you can visit ashleyscreativestash.com. The goal with this site right now, it did get a recent makeover, so you can go and check out the newness that is there. So I'm building up a collection of a lot of free coloring pages. I'm also going to be sharing something new that is coming to that. There will be a paid subscription that will be coming on October 31st. So I will be announcing that on the last day of the month. But my ultimate goal with this project is to also learn the ins and outs of creating a coloring book business. Selling coloring books, learning how to market them, all those different things that go along with creating a business. And my goal is to share what I'm learning along the way. So if you have ever been interested in creating coloring pages or creating digital products in general, even if it's not just coloring pages, you can duplicate the process for any kind of digital product, I believe. So if that's something that you want, I highly recommend subscribing. I will be sharing more of like the behind the scenes of what I do through my email as well as these videos. So definitely tune in and subscribe, and let me know if I can help you in any way. With that being said, happy Friday. There will be a new page uploaded in the free library today after I end this. So be sure to go check that out, and I will see you guys on Monday. Have an awesome day. Miss Janine says she can't wait. Me either, Janine. I'm super excited. All right, guys. See you later.